Atheist Nomads, episode 258. Let's not get depressed talking about depression and depressing stuff.
The podcast you're about to listen to includes cursing and talking about hoo-haws. Please be advised.
Welcome to another episode of Atheist Nomads. I am Dustin. Joining me is Lauren.
Hello.
And Erin.
Hi.
So how's everybody doing?
Good.
Actually pretty peachy considering the subject of today's talk.
I think it's going to be...
a good one?
I think it'll be good, yeah.
4th of July is right around the corner.
It's sunny out.
And a lot of people, I have a feeling, took the week off, so tons of people are out and about.
And if everybody was...
not working and getting in my way in traffic.
And if everybody who wants to go to Island Park, if they're already there enjoying the 4th of July, awesome. Because that means they won't be when we're there next week.
Yep.
So,
although this just brings up an interesting thing where Erin just mentioned to us before going live that she doesn't like fireworks and she has a weighted blanket to help soothe that anxiety. And it's so funny because on our Bench Dwellers Facebook page, somebody was just on saying that he doesn't believe that people like that exist.
Really?
It's only through like the other second to third person that saying that those people exist. That I'm like, dude, okay. So for an example, he says, I don't think anybody actually does, suffers from PTSD during 4th of July. I think it's just people making it up. And so this person responds, well, my dad has it, and this is what we do on 4th of July. And the guy's like, well, yeah, but you're saying that. Where's your dad? He's not on here saying that. And it's like, dude.
Yeah.
Chill.
I have a cousin who was trying to go to a 4th of July fireworks show shortly after he got back from Iraq and dove under a vehicle in the parking lot when somebody set off a firecracker.
Yeah, I just have extreme anxiety. I did not go to war, but I do have PTSD, and it's just... I just thought loud noises. I can do fireworks if I'm like on a rooftop and they're far on the horizon. I'm like, those are beautiful. But I just have this overwhelming fear that something's going to go wrong and I'm going to get hurt. And it's just a lot of loud shocks to the system. And so I'm just going to do an open mic and go to bed.
Yeah.
All right.
So the fact that this guy is out there saying that we're using vets to protect our animals, which was his other point. It's like, you guys are all talking about, using vets and animals as a way to avoid fireworks. Well, this is America. We have that right. It's like, oh, shut up, dude.
I'm pretty sure he said America.
I'm pretty sure he lacks empathy.
Now, my personal position on it is organized, announced, planned, professionally done fireworks displays are awesome. Drunk rednecks blowing shit up
is also awesome.
Is terrifying.
It is so terrifying. Fun. Well, that was my last experience with at home. No, my brother's not redneck, nor was he drunk, but they saw this thing on YouTube.
Oh, God.
And they put their illegal fountain on a ladder, and it fell, luckily, away from us. And so it was shooting
we were
out
not
of the top
so
of it, and it was horrific.
We filled a cardboard box full of fireworks, doused it in lighter fluid, carved a smiley face into the cardboard, and then lit it on fire. And one of the bottle rockets basically went up my friend's skirt. Left a little mark on her leg. Didn't do any actual damage or anything. But foolhardy, stupid. Lots of people get hurt. There's still that little voice in the back of my mind saying, but it's so much fun.
No.
Now, as of on the day of release, 4th of July is yesterday.
Yes.
But just remember, America is officially 2 years running a flawed democracy. We are tied with Italy. South Korea is beating us.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Yeah. Let that sink in when you think about
about nationalism, patriotism.
Yeah. Atheist Nomads is proudly brought to you by listeners just like you. You can find out how you can become a patron at patreon.com/atheistnomads. That's patreon.com/atheistnomads. And we have a new patron, Levi C.
Aww, Levi! We love Levi.
And as I have said, I will be, unless told to do otherwise, first name, last initial. That will be the standard. Makes it easier for me to keep track of who's who on the list.
Yeah.
It gets confusing when you get 5 Michaels.
Yeah, seriously, Mikes, tone it down a bit. No, it's not your fault. It's your parents' fault.
No, more Mikes need to become patrons.
Okay, all the Mikes.
That would also be really awesome if we had, 50 patrons named Mike.
Or 50 patrons.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I'd be pretty happy with one patron for every 10 episodes we've done.
That'd be good.
Yeah. But anyway,
enough with your dreams.
We have news. For the second time in as many weeks, Ultra-Orthodox men held up a flight. This was an Austrian Airlines flight that 26 men were moved to after their original flight was canceled. So yes, it was very full. And this was a flight from Israel back to Austria. Each of the men refused to sit next to a woman, and eventually the pilot had to get involved and convince several women to change seats. Just so that they could take off only 40 minutes late. With losing their place in line at the Vienna airport, they ended up being a full hour late by the time they got there. A whole bunch of passengers lost missed their connecting flights.
I would have been... Oh, man, that is...
Now, this is not happening alone. Like I mentioned, there was one the week before. After that incident on an El Al flight, the airline decided that any passenger refusing to be seated would be removed from the plane, and an Israeli court has also recently ruled that women cannot be forced to change seats.
Oh, that's nice.
Nice.
Way to go.
This is, and I've been on...
This is not a discrimination against the religious men. It is discrimination against the women who are stuck next to them.
Well, you get seated, you get settled into the seat. Moving is an imposition. I've been on a flight where I changed seats. I think I was on my 5th seat by the time we took off.
And you were the nice guy, right? You were the one that was like, yeah, I'll move. I'll move.
I didn't care. We were stopped in Detroit getting more passengers on the way to Amman, Jordan, and families wanted to sit together. They all asked nicely. I was happy to move. The difference there is they wanted me to trade places with them so they could sit closer to family.
Right.
It wasn't a case of they wanted me to move because I was a vile Christian and would keep them out of heaven.
Yeah. Or in the case of that one woman who had to sit next to the man who had necrotizing tissue.
Ooh.
That was unfortunate. They actually had to stop the flight.
Ew.
It was not good. I think the guy died after. It was really sad, actually. I shouldn't make fun of it. But everybody's been stuck next to that, fat, stinky person. Hey, I didn't call you a fat, stinky person. Just saying it is generic person who takes up way too much space, who may not actually be fat, because I got stuck next to a very skinny young woman who was just taking up the whole space.
Yeah. Well, and
legs
onions.
all crossed and onions.
And the return flight from Jordan back to Chicago, lots of stinky people. They ration water there. You can bathe once a week.
Oh, gosh.
Cologne.
And that bathing, you've only got water running in the shower for maybe 30 seconds.
Cologne.
A week. But that's not what that is not the point that we're talking about. This is...
Went off the rails there.
The ultra-Orthodox Jews are...
A pain in the ass.
Yeah.
No, they really are.
They are they make some of the Christian fundamentalist groups look moderate.
It is crazy. I've watched, I think, 2 documentaries now about them in New York, and people trying to basically a lot of women and people who identify gay who were forced a lot of women were forced into marriage, pulled out of school. Plus, school was all religious anyway. Mm-hmm. And then they're bound by these contracts, and it's just crazy what happens.
Crazy, no good.
Especially when you're forced into an abusive relationship, and then you have 9 children, and if you leave, then you leave your 9 children.
Yep.
Because you're the person who's doing... I mean, you're the woman, and you're leaving, and you're wrong.
Well, and then what ends up happening with... And this is like the Amish, as an example. I think Mennonites are probably the closer example, but they're not as well known as the Amish. But in both cases, they mostly shun technology. The chances of getting a Mennonite on a plane are pretty low. Chances of getting an Amish person on a plane, really low. And they aren't even that much dicks.
Yeah.
Sigh.
And the whole reason that these Orthodox Jewish men won't sit next to a woman is there is a chance that it might be her period or within 7 days of the end of it.
Right.
They take all those blood laws very seriously, and a woman is unclean half of her life.
I would so love to accidentally drop a maxi pad or something on a guy's lap. Oh, sorry, excuse me. No.
Oh my God, he would freak out.
Not used or anything, but doesn't matter. Just the imagery would just set them into a tizzy.
Put a couple of drops of red food coloring on it.
Oh, that's just me. See, that's just hilarious.
But that's the whole concern, because this woman might be unclean and might touch him.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous.
Now, there's the place where I get a little weird on this, and feel free to argue with me on it. Should they be, if they are that backwards and insane, should they be removed from society?
Society, no, but certain aspects of it, I think.
But should there be some kind of accommodation made so that they can get on planes?
Well, that's assuming that the airlines are even kind enough to allow you to choose your own seats or have a
but choosing
a preference.
Choosing your seat doesn't allow you to pick
who you're sitting next
to.
to. No, yeah. It's just something that if you want that that modern convenience, I think you're gonna have to bite the bullet. It's like getting onto a bus and insisting that you can't have any women on the bus. It's unless you schedule a specific shuttle shared by a lot of people with your same beliefs and pay extra for it, you're just going to get mingled in with everybody.
Yeah. You know what that's called? Get on a private plane.
Yeah.
If you've got a problem, then get on a private plane.
But how is this different than having a kosher meal available on the flight? You have to request that in advance. They aren't going to give it to you if you ask when you get there.
You can't make the person next to you have a kosher meal. But that's imposing your religious beliefs on somebody else.
But should it be allowed to... Should the airlines set up a system where you can put in requests like not being seated next to a person of the opposite sex?
Yeah, but then you're going to have to poll everybody to... I don't think you put male or female when you fly. Do you?
Yeah.
I haven't flown in a while. You put male or female?
They have all your information.
I mean, you can put your driver's license in, but I don't know if the airline's let me look up that driver's license number.
They don't care.
No, they don't.
The
airline has to have all that information so that when you get your ticket, there's enough information to check your ID and verify that's you.
But can it be then argued that then, I don't know.
But when it comes to seating on airlines, it's a mess. It's completely random. It's last minute, last second decisions. They can't.
It's a computer that does most of the assignments.
Yeah,
that computer can be.
We would have to go back to the golden days of air flight when, the stewardesses knew the names of every person who got on the plane and knew everything about the individuals when there's only 10 people on each plane.
Let's flip this around. Should women be able to say they don't want to sit next to a man?
I mean, I don't always want to sit next to dudes.
I don't either.
I don't care.
I don't expect in a public transportation sort of situation any special benefit.
I mean, Alaska lets you choose your seat, but then you're starting to run a fine line if it's here's a men's section and only.
I'm not suggesting anything with sections, but if you could put in those kinds of preferences,
the answer is
just
no.
like you can put in a preference on, do you want a regular meal, vegetarian meal, kosher, halal?
Yeah, but isn't
vegan.
that also, I mean, now you're regulating, and now you're saying, oh, I don't want a gender. What's to say the next person's going to not say, like, well, I'm from this country, so I don't want to sit next to, and I'm this religion, so I don't want to sit next to a Muslim. I don't want to sit next to a person from this country. I mean, that's starting to...
Airlines are a public accommodation.
Right.
You have to deal with it.
Where I would draw the line with it is you put in a preference. Whether or not that's granted is a different story.
Right.
If it can be done, the algorithm will make those assignments.
I mean, here's the thing. If you're so worried about it, don't get on a plane.
Private jet.
Private jet.
You'll have to pay for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I disagree with you. I don't think even preferences. I don't. No.
It's just, it's muddy. It's muddy and people would start
encourage segregation in all sorts of areas, and it's just.
And yeah, here where the next logical step with that would be putting in a preference to not sit next to a black person.
Right. I mean, or a Muslim, or
anything.
Anybody.
Yeah.
Like anybody that you're
Do you think I could pay
against.
extra to be seated next to somebody with a puppy? I would pay extra.
I
for
mean, yeah. If I could. Oh my gosh, they had a flight like full of puppies I saw, and it was the best picture ever. I was like, oh my gosh, I want to be on that flight.
My dream.
Yeah. Now that's the flight I want to be on.
Now, were they actually puppies, or were they just chihuahuas getting shipped out of California?
No, they were like little golden retriever puppies. Like
it's always a golden retriever puppy.
I know, and
they're like the white male of puppies.
Yeah, and who knows? Like it was probably like a copy paste job, like all over the place, but it looked real cute.
All right. Well, Winston Blackmore is now the former head of the fundamentalist Mormons in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And he and James Aller have been convicted of polygamy.
Was that an update from last week?
We didn't talk about this one last week.
We haven't talked about this one?
No, we talked about it at dinner a couple days ago.
Oh, okay.
So this is the first time in like 102 years that anywhere in Canada has prosecuted anybody for violating polygamy laws. In the case of Blackmore, he has 24 wives and 149 children.
Yeah.
Holy.
So my argument is that polygamy in itself isn't a terrible, the idea itself isn't bad, because if you have consenting adults. The problem is the ages of some of these girls when they got married were a little low.
Yeah.
And he obviously does not have the ability to support that many women and children. So you shouldn't really have more children than you are able to support.
Absolutely.
Well, okay,
like
so
the Duggars can have as many kids as they want because they're freaking multimillionaires.
10 of his wives were 17 at the time they got married. 3 were 16 and 1 was 15.
Okay, so blatantly illegal right there.
Well, unless there's a law where you can sign or whatever, but they wouldn't be really married. There'd be one marriage, right?
Well,
usually one.
But these were
marriage.
just celestial.
Right, exactly.
This is, just them say, you're my wife now. I can do you. Yeah, no. So, yeah. Great for the conviction. The guy needed to be told that this was not socially correct and punished for it, because I'm sure a bunch of those kids are probably living in poverty.
I think,
but
when
it comes to the actual being convicted of polygamy, it's like, oh god, really? We're still doing this?
I kind of suspect this might have been a case like Al Capone getting convicted on tax evasion.
Right? You just peg him for what you can.
They didn't want him for not paying taxes. They wanted him for all the racketeering and murder.
Right.
I'm guessing in this guy's case, they wanted him for all of the children that he married and probably a shit ton of abuse that was going on.
Right. I think the problem is that the thought of having multiple relationships, one, is not the problem. If, again, everybo's consenting, the problem is...
And that everybody's adults.
And everybody's adults.
That's kind of the biggest part.
Right.
Everybody needs to be an adult.
And but the thing is, then you add this religious aspect, and you're taking away education and you're taking away basically rights,
any opportunity whatsoever.
And then having 100 plus kids, and you can't take care of them at all. None of those kids. And now they've been sheltered. Who knows if this is a Warren Jeff situation too? We'll hear about that.
He's the Canadian Warren Jeff.
Okay, so basically he's taking probably his sons and being like, all right, well, get the fuck out because I want these ladies, not you. So good luck.
Or making kids who don't have the same mothers marry each other in order to keep the religion going. That happened in Utah back in the good old days.
But
they took their polygamy seriously back then.
But because whether or not the doctrine is correct should be irrelevant for the law. And the polygamy laws in the US, and I'd presume Canada as well, are explicitly anti-Mormon in their adoption.
Yeah, they love to bring that up as Mormons are subject to persecution. Like, they've actually had entire laws designed to keep them from following their religious beliefs. It's true.
It is.
Do.
Now, to fix those issues, or ignoring that completely, figuring out how to legally do plural marriage would be complicated and messy from a legal standpoint.
Well, it looks like Cody Brown's doing real good on that, though.
Yep.
Come on.
Yeah.
They've got a TV show on TLC. So they're doing great.
Because TLC is, known for its quality protection.
Well, okay. Marriage laws, where it's difficult is never while you're actively in the marriage. That part's easy. Well, from a legal standpoint, it's easy. Where the law is involved is the start and the finish. If one party, if say 5 people are married and one party leaves, how do you divide property?
Hopefully there was a prenup.
And if it's one man with 5 wives and they aren't all, don't all consider them, like, if he leaves, are the wives all married to each other at that point? Or are they also all split up?
I don't know. I mean, it's very complicated, and I'm sure it's dependent on each and every different set of relationships, right? If we were to do it right, I mean, I would say there's always going to be one legal marriage. Everybody else, you better get an attorney so that when those problems do arise, that you are legally protected to something, whether it be, it's a lot of assets because you're obviously going to have kids in this relationship. And from what I've heard, there are bonds with the sister wives or whatnot. But I would think it would be really complicated. And
all I have to do is look back at my own family history to know that those,
right.
There's always animosity.
Oh, yeah, totally. But there, you could be okay with your sister wife too. What would happen if he died?
Yeah.
I mean, celestially, they're all going to be in the same place, no matter what, even if they marry their second guy. It's just the same thing as all Mormonism. You go with your first husband, right? I think.
But if he dies, who gets the property?
That's where a lawyer comes in and you start.
How do they split that up?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's messy. It's complicated. With my great-great-great-grandfather, who was kicked out of the Southerly Mills Baptist Church in Kent, England for bigamy, he got lucky in that his legal wife died first.
Right.
There wasn't any inheritance issues or anything. Yeah. He then just finally legally married her sister, his other wife, and then they have a 3-sided tombstone.
Yeah. Let's just say divorce is complicated no matter what. Now you're just getting more people involved, and I just would say, think of the children. Please think of the children.
But the biggest problem that I see with these polygamy cases that keep coming up is the children, the kids they're marrying. That should never be okay. But too many states, and I think British Columbia, yes, not a state, Canadian province. Don't ask me how I know this. His name is Dan, and he told me way too much information about stuff from his Ren Fair days.
If there's any group of nerds that I feel comfortable making fun of, it's the Ren Fair guys.
But yeah, apparently the SCA in BC, 14 with parental consent is the age of consent.
Well, apparently here in Idaho, you can also marry with consent.
Yep.
I'm trying to find where...
I think it's 15.
16.
It's 16.
Oh, it used to be 15.
It's young.
Idaho's 16, Oregon is 17.
Well, that's about the age when kids start getting knocked up.
Yep.
And rather than give them birth control, you just make them marry somebody.
Well,
it's a practice marriage anyway. They'll get all of their angst out of the way, make all their terrible life decisions, and then get their act together in their 20s, divorce, and live happily ever after.
So, but the starting point is making the line a hard 18. That's step one. This guy would not have had more than half of his wives. Literally 14 of the 24 were under the age of 18 when they got married.
That is so messed up.
Yeah.
What kind of parent was like, this is great for my daughter?
Another polygamous parent. I mean, they're all just in it, right? Like, it's not like he's walking down the street and he's like, ooh, hey, there's a young gal named Sally and her parents don't know anything. Let's just take...
Or the parents are like, oh my, there's a young man walking down, or an older man walking down the street. He looks like he can care for my daughter. Let's marry her off.
You know, for...
Like it's freaking 500 years ago.
David Koresh, every most likely pubescent or older girl or woman in the church he was fucking.
Yep. Yeah.
A hard 18. That's the start.
But
once that's done, a lot of these issues are resolved, because then you don't have to prosecute him for polygamy, which I'm sure even the prosecutors thought was bullshit. You could prosecute him for statutory rape.
Right. But the problem is that you can say that, oh, hard 18, it doesn't matter. People, they don't care.
That's true.
They don't care. They're going to do it anyway, because partially the man is kind of a pedophile.
Yeah.
I mean,
but they could convict him on it later.
It's true.
That's all that argument is for.
But I mean, I don't know. I don't know how the system is.
But like
the conviction. Yeah.
Right.
Prevention, that's...
We don't know how to prevent.
Nope.
I don't think the world knows how to prevent anything.
Because as soon as you convince one group of people that this is a bad idea, another group of people pop up and say it's good.
If we could prevent cults, we wouldn't have them.
Right.
But since, as a society, we can't even define them, how are we going to stop them?
Oh, throwback to last episode. Nice. Last 2 episodes.
A recent one.
Whatever.
All right, for a local story... A California man was temporarily staying at an apartment complex in Boise until he was asked to leave the complex on Friday. Saturday, he returned with a knife and started stabbing people at a 3-year-old girl's birthday party, wounding 6 children and 3 adults, all or most of whom are refugees from Muslim-majority countries. The birthday girl's injuries were severe enough to require her being sent to Salt Lake, and she has now passed away.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a...
He has been charged with at least 15 felonies, ranging from causing harm to a child on the low end to first-degree murder on the high end.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot of reactions to this. Weird reactions. Lots of anti-California.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Because this guy was
he was not a refugee.
Transplant from L.A. He was not part of the refugees, so at least they can't blame that. But he was black. So I've heard people refer to that. It's like, is nobody going to bring up the fact that he was black?
Why?
No, we're not, because that was not relevant to this. This was a person who had behavioral problems, who obviously was in a very bad place, because that's why he got kicked out of the apartments in the first place, apparently.
Now, presumably, and it would make sense that this would be where refugees would be, it was probably the cheapest or one of the cheapest apartment complexes in the area. Well, okay, it's off of State Street. It's Garden City. Yeah. So
and not in one of the new fancy condos either. But...
No. So cheap apartments.
Well, the guy was strung out on drugs, so presumably.
Yeah. As far as I know, at least as of recording, a motive has not been determined yet.
I don't know if you're ever going to get one.
Police are still investigating, trying to figure out why.
I mean, what's the guy going to say to appease anything? He literally, he did go to a child's birthday party and start stabbing the children first. So I mean, not that I'm saying it's better to start stabbing adults, but you gotta have next level issues, and I don't know if we're ever gonna really fully understand what was going on.
You're right.
With him.
You can't.
And so I think we all need to take a hard look and say, like, well, what can we do?
Yeah.
Because
thoughts and prayers.
Oh gosh, thoughts and prayers. Everybody's been saying that, and you know, it's great for a week because that's how long this is going to last, unfortunately. And then we're just going to go back and we're not going to do anything because we don't have prevention, and we just stick Band-Aids on it. I think my thought is, besides the fact that it's children, these are refugees who are coming from places because they're fleeing violence, and then this man came in and
tore their world apart.
Yeah.
And so how can we, I mean, I can't even imagine how unsafe I would feel in a place that I was hoping to get out of, and coming to America in this political climate, and already feeling insecure, and then having a man come in and do that. It's just, I honestly, every time I think about this, I get numb, and I broke down on Sunday because my roommate got to be a part of the incoming, because she works at the hospital. And so she told me some things that the news has not been saying.
That's
and I work at the other hospital, so I've been seeing emails at work about this.
And it's just the other thing that people have been bringing up is the fact that if somebody there had a gun,
no,
they could have stopped it.
No.
One, most of the victims were 3, 4, and 6. 3, 4, and 6. So no, they did not have guns. 2, there were refugees. So no, they did not have guns. Lastly, it doesn't do you any good when it's a surprise attack like this. This was just
the better gun argument with this one.
Thank goodness he didn't have one.
He didn't have a gun.
Yeah.
There were 9 people injured. Okay, 8 people injured, 1 killed. If he'd had a gun, that would have been 9 dead.
Yeah.
Or more.
Yeah.
More injured.
The whole point of gun control is not to reduce violence. It's to make that violence less lethal. I would take 1,000 knife attacks over a single shooting.
Yeah.
I would take none of either.
Well, okay, that would be ideal.
Okay,
yeah.
Ideally.
But so then the other thing I want to bring up with this is I have been impressed with the response this has gotten. A lot of when people listen to podcasts, and Idaho's the brunt of a lot of jokes. We have a lot of rednecks. We are a good example of a crazy right-wing red state. Boise is a beacon of blue, and I have been very pleased to see the police chief doing active press releases. He did a press conference in the middle of the night when this happened.
Yeah.
It was on a Saturday. Saturday night, he did a press conference. And he's done more as more information has come out. They have been on top of this. They've been doing a wonderful job. And we're recording this on Monday. Right now, there is a vigil going on at City Hall. Yeah. Boise, as a city, loves our refugees. We want this to be a nice, happy home for them and a safe place for them. And I don't care that the guy who did it was from out of town. Don't fucking do that in our city.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and they're talking about how the police chief specifically talked about how he has had a history of law enforcement issues in every state he's been in, and that it was just a matter of time, which is not great.
No, no.
Yeah.
So
basically, this guy should have been removed from society quite a while ago, but
he bounced around.
Yeah.
Or the right wing loves to bring up this isn't an excuse. I think it needs to be an and, not an or. If we had a better mental health system,
absolutely,
stuff like this could be avoided sometimes. Not every time.
No.
But sometimes.
But we do not like to prevent. We like to put a Band-Aid on a bleeding open wound and scramble.
Yeah. All right. So, yeah, that one, I don't know why I thought we'd be able to get through it with dry eyes.
Right. Damn it.
All right, so on his very Christian radio show, Rick Wiles managed to perfectly blend fundamentalist Christian misogyny and racism. I edited out a lot of the redundancy and his very scientifically and medically inaccurate description of abortion because it was absolutely garbage. Sewers are not involved in the handling of medical waste. Anyway, here is the audio.
Our soil is soaked in baby blood. 4,000 babies killed every day, and the soil is crying out for justice.
Yes.
So if we don't repent, God's bringing another people into America and pushing the white Europeans off the land. We have a brown invasion that has come in.
Yes, and they're not killing their kids.
Yeah, you heard that right.
What the fuck? Okay, so just to give you a little bit of background here, I did not hear the comment, the whatever that was, because I was taking care of the baby, and the look on Erin's face is all I need.
Uh-huh.
I am horrified.
So, because of abortion, we have immigration.
Yup.
As
okay.
God's punishment. Okay, no.
We have got to stop using God as a reason to be racist.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Oh, man. But if they keep this up, there aren't going to be many left. Well, okay, if they keep up the success they're currently having, we won't have any more immigrants, which would be sad. But if people get out and vote and they keep this up, then they will lose all power, and that would be awesome.
I guess I'm just horrified by hearing people actually talk and have this available, because remember how we just talked about we don't like to prevent mental health issues? There are people out there who then listen to this and have mental health issues, and this is the reason why we have terrorists, I will say it, white terrorists, who go and shoot people.
It's just, it reminds me of the guy who was at the protest this weekend who, let's see, so somebody was giving a prayer for the families separated at the border, and he kept saying womp womp, parodying the Trump advisor who did the same thing on a news station earlier in the week. And so he kept going, oh, womp womp, too bad for them. And then he finally, of course, he pulled out a gun.
What?
Yeah.
At the rally this weekend?
Not here in Boise.
Oh.
Elsewhere. This guy, is like, these people hear stuff and they parrot it.
Yep. All right. And for our final news story, children who cross the border alone or who have been separated from their parents as young as 3 years of age are defending themselves, generally without a lawyer, at their deportation hearings.
Yeah, because that makes sense, and that's constitutional.
Well, I heard this on the news, and I actually heard like a clip, and for the most part, I mean, it is so confusing. The questions are confusing. A 3-year-old can't defend. We all know that. I think everybody knows the 3+ up adults can't always defend themselves. And now you're saying children who English, they do not know.
Oh, and okay, at a deportation hearing, the question they're getting, why did you come to America? How was a 3-year-old going to know why mom and dad brought her across the border?
Right.
That is absurd. And okay, it's also should be and is generally very irregular for children to be addressing a court. I have been that weird kid who addressed the court at the age of 5. When my custody was being determined, I wanted to be there. And my mom checked with the judge before I sat at that table. And the judge was cool with it. And he outlined how the custody arrangement was going to work. And then he looked at me and said, Dustin, is that okay with you? And I said at 5, yes, Your Honor.
That's adorable. But not in this case. This is, terrifying.
No.
But nothing I said would have had any bearing on anything because I was a 5-year-old. 3-year-olds are even stupider.
Yeah.
You should have
But
said,
just little baby brains
like,
don't comprehend.
yes, honor, but I want to be a pirate.
I object.
Ah, man. All right.
Pirate.
Well, that's it for news. So we're going to take a break, and then we'll be back with a discussion. We love hearing from our listeners. You can email us at contact@atheistnomads.com, tweet us @atheistnomads, send us a message on our Facebook page at facebook.com/atheistnomads, or better yet, call us and leave us a message at 541-203-0666. We might even play it on the show. You can also help us out by leaving us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or your podcast directory of choice. Now let's talk about depression.
A little background here, Erin. How's the job going?
Oh, the job is great.
It was just before that wasn't.
Yes,
right?
it was before that wasn't. Yes. So I just wanted to, I think Lauren and I talked, we took a walk around on my first week.
Yeah.
And we were talking about depression. And I was telling her, okay, backstory, backing it up.
Beep, beep, beep.
I actually have suffered from severe depression with some anxiety my whole life. It has been diagnosed. And just recently, in the past 10 years, I also developed PTSD, which has amped up my anxiety level. And I just had a new job. I just a new job offer, but I left my old job and then was looking for a job for 4 long winter months. And it sucked.
Mm-hmm.
It was like getting broken up with every day, putting yourself out there, getting broken up with every single day.
Yeah.
Some form of rejection, or at least going on like a first and second date and then being like, I really like this. And then that's the only thing that I can equate it to. But I was talking to Lauren about this and I thought, I grew up Unitarian Universalist. I don't know the Bible. I dabbled a little in Christianity. And even during this whole time, I was like, I kind of get it. It's kind of a lifeline. It's kind of a grounding mechanism because every day I'm like,
I wish you could believe.
Right, exactly. It was almost like, who do I talk to besides my friends who I've already been talking to? And just being like, I'm going through a really rough time now. Open space.
Yeah.
It was hard. And it's still hard. I don't know. It was one of those things where I'm like, gosh, I can really see why people go to cults or religion when they're in a real low place in life, because you're just in the bottom of a pit trying to grab onto something that gets you out of bed.
Yeah.
Some hope.
Yeah. Oh man, one of the most graphic examples I saw was we were picketing across the street from the National Day of Prayer rally at the state capitol. This would have been probably 7 years ago.
Back in our activist days.
That was fun. And this one woman comes by and she's a born again Christian and wanted to kind of join us on our side because she thought what they were doing over there was weird, and she loves Jesus and Jesus is all she needs. And then she started going into her backstory, all the drug abuse, I think she did some prostitution for a while in there to pay for the drug abuse, and a lot of abusive relationships, and just every really bad sob story you hear. And it was starting to really sound like, okay, there's probably quite a few mental health issues here. And then she found Jesus and didn't need any drugs anymore because Jesus gave her a better high than she ever got, even with LSD.
Absolutely.
And it was like,
right.
Yep, you combine mental illness with Jesus and you've got hallucinations.
Yeah.
And she started describing some of those hallucinations. I wasn't saying this to her. I was just listening and thinking through. And she started talking about hallucinations that she was having.
Hearing
off
God's
of Jesus,
voice.
seeing stuff that God was showing her while she'd be walking around the streets.
Right.
But it gave her a context to shape that and make sense of it and feel like it was not out of control.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That lifeline.
Exactly. The lifeline.
When my grandmother was dying, my mom told me that she was jealous of her mom's faith, that she knew that grandma knew that everything was going to be okay.
Right.
And her daughter didn't. So yeah, there are definitely times in our lives, especially at those low points, where you can succumb to those kind of things. And I don't know. If it keeps you going, I almost, don't care. It's
right.
like, all right, if that's what gets you through the day. I just have problems when people try to put it into law.
Yeah.
Or try to put it, force me to do it. But
Right.
An individual's beliefs, man, if that keeps you getting up every day, going to support your family, keeping you from hurting yourself, then you know what? Have it. 'Cause
Right.
I would hate to take that away from somebody and have them feel like that they have nothing.
Right.
Well, and losing that is also very depressing. My deconversion experience was incredibly painful. When my faith was strong, God was guiding me and everything was okay. I didn't have to worry about things because God was going to take care of it. So I was able to pretend my problems didn't exist. And what's crazy is if you don't worry about a lot of those problems, some of them kind of just go away.
Dude, that's how I live my life.
Right.
And when God left me, it was really felt very empty, very alone.
Well, I mean, you were grieving that loss, right?
Yeah.
Definitely.
While going actively into debt.
I can only imagine what it would be like to have something so strong and grow up somewhere and then feel like you're losing it because it just doesn't make sense anymore. But you can still feel that deep sense of loss. I mean, when I converted to Mormonism because I felt like I didn't have a strong support system at home. I was having a lot of problems with my parents. I was very depressed. And this was like this happy, cheery place that people were like, we want you to come and hang out with us. Like, we have activities that you can do on the week. During the week, we can bake cookies and go to Dairy Queen and do all these fun activities. And we want you here. And it felt really warm and comforting. But then the guilt started seeping in because I'm a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And Mormons, there's just not, I mean, they're not, it wasn't jiving well with me.
Yeah.
After a little while. I went for 2 years. I was baptized because my mom decided that I couldn't get baptized until I was 18. So I got baptized on my 18th birthday.
That's awesome.
And then 6 months later, I stopped going.
Wait, so did you join a church as a teenage rebellion?
I did. So that's the one thing as a Unitarian. The joke is that the one thing that you can do to piss off your Unitarian Universalist parents is to join a very religious, join a church.
Yep.
Just join a very conservative church. And that will make them highly uncomfortable. I mean, I remember having an argument the night before, and my mom wasn't even mad about me going to church per se. She was more mad because she wouldn't be able to see me get married officially.
Oh.
Because I was Mormon, and to get married officially would be in the temple.
Yep.
And anybody who didn't have a temple card couldn't go and see that official marriage. And she wasn't satisfied with having the ring ceremony because she said that's not the marriage.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that she was she was very upset about that.
Also, that's illegal in some states. Most states, actually. It is illegal for the wedding part to not be open to the public.
Wow.
The actual legal bit, because that's a state function.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But heavily Mormon states the Mormon church has gotten exemptions put in or has blocked those laws from being put in place.
Right. I think, the last 4 months I want to say, and now I'm out of it. I'm crawling out of it. I say I'm crawling out of it.
You're fighting.
I'm really fighting hard. And, but the 4 months of unemployment, and I know there's probably some people who are like, okay, big eye roll on that one. But, I've got a lot of backstory issues for why I am the way I am and how I react to things. And it was really hard to be alone. I'm not usually a person that wants to be alone. But I didn't have any money coming in, and I didn't have anything to talk about except for rejection all the time. So I thought, why would I want to hang out with a bunch of people? And there were points when I thought my knee-jerk reaction was to get on my knees and pray. Who the fuck I was praying to, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, because that's not really in my world. And it was hard. And I think, you know, when Lauren and I were talking about it, it was hard because I was having a crisis of sorts, because I just didn't know that's the one thing about not having religion, or to me, is that big unknown, because I already feel this big void. And so it's scary to think this is it. And now I'm taking 4 months and essentially wasting it, feeling like shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's just interesting because we have the very similar backgrounds. So she's telling me all this stuff about, gosh, I wish I could just talk to somebody. I'm like, oh my God, I've so been there.
Yeah.
And I think that's about as close as we can understand what losing faith is like,
right.
is being rock bottom and not having that to look for.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that really resonated with me. But it's like the semicolon thing, you know, the story
Right.
keeps going.
Right.
And that's the really important part to hang on to.
Absolutely. And I will say, you know, I had conversations, and I had a great support system. I did. I shouldn't say did. I really do have a great support system. I learned a lot about myself in this. I was able to use tools in my tool bag, as I say, to reach to, so that I wouldn't get to that really, really low point. And I think I've just come out and say it. I mean, I was suicidal at one point, but there were just factors that weren't going to push me to that point, because I knew that I could reach out, and there were other factors. There were just other factors. But it also made me incredibly sad to think about people who don't have that.
Yeah.
And people who don't have a support system, and people who are dealing with this and self-medicating, because it's a place that I've been also.
Mm-hmm. Well, and self-medicating is, if you get fully hit rock bottom, and you don't have insurance, self-medicating is cheaper than the ER.
Exactly. And so it's just like, shit. This time around, I decided not to drink. I went 4 months without drinking, everybody.
Oh,
wow.
Good job.
And I mean, it's not that I don't want to drink. It's like,
You just
I just
recognize
know,
that wasn't going to help.
It wasn't going to help. But again, it makes me really feel empathy for people who are doing this on their own without having a support system. And then, you know, like you said, Lauren, it's like, if religion is the one thing that's going to take them from not self-harming, then more power to you on that one. And I can't say anything about it. It's when they come back and say, well, now you have to do this. That's when I'm like, no.
Yeah, when
you can't force me to do anything.
When I was unemployed, I spent 14 hours a day sleeping. I slept from 10 to noon. What actually was really interesting with that was after about a month, I'd gotten caught up on sleep.
Yeah.
Sleeping in until I'd wake up.
Right.
Then I started waking up at 5 a.m. It was like, what the hell? Oh, I'm rested. And then I started getting depressed.
Yeah.
And I started sleeping until 11 or 12. And that was 7 months. The only thing I had going on was getting to hang out with Lauren, going fishing. Oh, then winter came.
Oh, God. Winter's the worst.
And we were able to move podcast recording to Tuesday because I had all day Wednesday to edit. So I had Tuesday where I could do show prep, and I had and record, and Wednesday where I could do editing. And Idaho, if you're getting unemployment, you have to be home Monday through Friday, 9 to 5.
Right.
That was the most annoying part, is that we couldn't just pack up and go to the cabin for a week because he had to stay in town for an unemployment.
Right. And the fact that you have to be available for anything and everything. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm dealing right now with a friend who doesn't have a support system, and I don't know what to do anymore.
Right.
You know, she's in a different town, different city, so I can't be driving out there every day to help, and can't afford to move her here because there's no rent that is cheap enough for somebody who's on Medicare and Medicaid.
Right.
Basically alienated all of her friends, family, doctors. There are whole groups of doctors that won't see her anymore. So it's like, God, what do you do when you have nothing? And she's asking me today, what do I do? I'm like, I don't know. And I just keep sending her pictures of my baby, and that seems to keep her going. But
right, because she's at the point where no friend or God can help.
Right.
She needs a professional.
Well, but
it's hard to get access to professionals.
For sure. And I think like in this case, it's looking at, and I hate to say it, but institutionalized care.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Meaning going into a place. And in the hope that, you know, maybe she can get better and maybe something will change where she can just be there for a little while. But
no, not likely. This is a physical illness that is degenerative.
Right.
It's more, where can we get her someplace where somebody is watching, at least making sure that she's taking medications and stuff every day.
Right.
If she gets lost, somebody to direct her back to where she can be.
Somebody who can notice when she falls.
Notice when she falls.
Yeah.
So, and if you are Medicare, Medicaid, and living on $500 to $800 a month, you're out of luck. You can't get into an assisted living. You can't get into a nursing home because they want you to pay up front and then apply for a waiver through health and welfare. So that doesn't really work. I don't know.
Yeah, we're at the point where the system that was supposed to replace the asylums never happened.
Right.
And I don't know if that would even be the right place for her if those were available. But the alternative is if there's so many people who fall through the cracks and
they're all clogging the drain there.
They end up on the streets because eventually there's nowhere else to go.
Yeah, and then there's programs as soon as you do that. But I don't understand why we have to get it to that point.
Yeah.
You know, and that's unfortunate.
The safety net is supposed to keep you from hitting rock bottom.
Absolutely.
But the net's been loosened up too much.
Well,
we need to tighten those, crank the ratchet a few times.
Yeah. But hopefully,
just keep trying.
That's all you can really do. And
I have to make sure that I don't get dragged down.
Absolutely. Right. And I think, we've talked about that.
Yeah.
Is making sure that as a caregiver, even in the respects of just being a friend, giving that care, you also have to look at yourself too, because you can definitely get dragged down. I know I have. I know that I've been there for friends, and then you can just so easily get dragged down.
It's like all I want to do in the world is help people.
Right.
But I don't know when to quit.
Right.
Which is really common with people who want to be helpers.
Right. And so building those boundaries, and that's something that I learned during this. I mean, I say that it was really the roughest time of my life, but I've also learned so much. So building boundaries, understanding what causes me anxiety and depression when I'm, say, at a job, because that's happened too, and what I can do to help myself. I am super anxious right now. I will tell you, I have not been sleeping very much lately, and that is partially because I've got a new job and I'm part of this real intensive contest.
Yeah. And speaking of which, we need to wrap it up.
Oh,
yep.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
I got to get to an open mic.
Woo!
We are out of time, and you need to move from this mic to another mic.
Yeah. Yeah. So, not again, but I am... I'm not always talking about sad stuff. Sometimes I'm talking about sad stuff in a funny way.
Yeah. Where can we find you?
You can find me on July 7th. Is this after? No. It'll be still, right?
Few days before.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay, on July 7th, hopefully you can get tickets for Boise's Funniest Person. I am one of 20 contestants, and one of 6 that are female.
Woo!
Yeah.
Hoo-haws.
Oh,
You're not allowed to talk about.
But I can't talk about hoo-haws. Because I can't make it funny.
Just ask Lady Business how it's done. They'll show you.
They're
how
the
it's
ones
done.
who told me not to.
What?
I know. It's okay. It's okay. Every female talks about it, but I do. That's where you can find me right now. I also work my day job at a nonprofit, and that is very rewarding. But I think I think the other thing is that to wrap this up, but I think being able to find coming out of this a creative outlet, which I never thought of myself as a creative person at all. I'm not into artworks or crafts or home decoration, and I never thought of myself as a writer, but people tell me I'm funny sometimes. Sometimes. And so it was really nice to start feeling better about myself and then finding a creative outlet, which also gives me a lot of anxiety.
Isn't that the way?
But
learning to cope with the anxiety,
exactly.
how to use that to your advantage.
But also keep in mind, there are no healthy comics.
No, I know. I think I fit in perfectly.
Yep.
I think I found my people now. And so as soon as I stop being so intimidated and just looming around them, because that's what I usually do, I'm like, I'm just going to stand on the peripheral and hope that you'll come up and talk to me because I'm intimidated. Because I'm a real comic now.
Yay! I'm all grown up.
But I've been doing a lot of open mics. You can probably find me at open mics now from now on. And July 7th. And then we'll see what happens after that. So
all right.
all the positive vibes if you're into that.
All the positive vibes.
That I can get up on stage and make people laugh and the judges will love me.
Or buy tickets and laugh and clap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just come out. I mean, there's 20 people who are trying to make light of this world that we live in. I think that's the other thing. I'm just, shit is happening every day and it sucks. And I'm tired of being tired and depressed.
Sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Right, exactly. Like that's the old cliche. But I love making people laugh. And so my hope is that I can do that on the side and
Yep.
And come out and see me. Yay.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us.
Rocco misses you.
I know he does.
And listeners, remember, not all those who wander are lost. Thank you for listening to another episode of Atheist Nomads. You can find show notes and contact information at atheistnomads.com. Follow us on Twitter at Atheist Nomads and like us on Facebook at facebook.com/Atheist Nomads. Please subscribe to the show in iTunes, Stitcher, or your podcatcher of choice. And while you're there, feel free to leave us a review. Theme music is courtesy of Sturdy Fred. Until next time, this has been the Atheist Nomads.